Who is your neighbor? This question lies at the heart of one of Jesus' most famous parables, the Good Samaritan, found in Luke 10:25-37. Through this story, Jesus challenges us to redefine our understanding of love and neighborliness, urging us to show compassion to everyone, especially those who are different from us. Let's dive into this parable to explore its profound implications for how we, as Christians, should treat others. If this message resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and share it to inspire others to live out Jesus' teachings in their lives. The context of the parable. The parable begins when a lawyer, an expert in Jewish law, tests Jesus with a question. "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Luke 10:25. Jesus responds by asking the lawyer to summarize the law, to which he replies, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Luke 10:27. When the lawyer, seeking to justify himself, asks, "And who is my neighbor?" Luke 10:29. Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan to redefine the concept of a neighbor in a way that transcends social, ethnic, and religious boundaries. The parable explained. In the parable, Jesus describes a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, a treacherous road known for its danger. The man is attacked by robbers, stripped of his clothes, beaten, and left half dead by the roadside. Three individuals pass by the wounded man. 1. The priest. The first person to encounter the injured man is a priest, a religious leader. One might expect him to help, but he passes by on the other side, possibly to avoid ritual impurity or simply out of indifference. This act challenges the assumption that religious status equates to righteousness or compassion. Do we sometimes overlook opportunities to help because it's inconvenient or challenges our comfort? 2. The Levite. Next, a Levite, another religious figure, comes across the man. Like the priest, the Levite also chooses to pass by on the other side. His inaction further emphasizes that religious observance alone is not enough to fulfill the commandment to love one's neighbor. Are we guilty of prioritizing religious duties over showing compassion to those in need? 3. The Samaritan. Finally, a Samaritan comes upon the injured man. Samaritans were despised by the Jews due to long-standing ethnic and religious animosities, making the Samaritan an unexpected hero in Jesus' story. However, it is the Samaritan who is moved with compassion. He treats the man's wounds, places him on his own donkey, and takes him to an inn where he cares for him. The next day, he pays the innkeeper to continue caring for the man, promising to cover any additional expenses. Are we willing to show love and compassion to those who are different from us, even if it costs us something? Lessons from the parable. 1. Compassion knows no boundaries. The Samaritan's actions demonstrate that true compassion transcends social, ethnic, and religious boundaries. Jesus intentionally uses a Samaritan as the hero to challenge the prejudices of his audience. The Samaritan's love for his neighbor is driven by a recognition of shared humanity, not hindered by differences. Are you willing to break down barriers of prejudice and extend love to all people, regardless of their background? 2. Love requires action. The parable emphasizes that love is not just a feeling but an action. The priest and Levite may have felt pity for the man, but their failure to act reveals the insufficiency of mere sentiment. The Samaritan's love is demonstrated through concrete actions, binding wounds, providing transportation, and ensuring continued care. How can you put your love into action by meeting the needs of others, even when it's inconvenient? 3. Our neighbor is anyone in need. Jesus redefines neighbor to include anyone who crosses our path in need, regardless of their background or status. The lawyer's question, "Who is my neighbor?" suggests a desire to limit his responsibility. Jesus' parable, however, expands that responsibility to include everyone, particularly the marginalized and vulnerable. Are you willing to broaden your perspective and recognize your responsibility to care for all people, especially those who are suffering? 4. True righteousness is reflected in mercy. The religious figures in the parable, the priest and the Levite, represent a form of righteousness that is hollow because it lacks mercy. True righteousness, Jesus teaches, is reflected in acts of mercy and kindness, not just in religious rituals. How can you ensure that your faith is not just about religious observance, but about showing mercy and kindness to others? Applying the parable today. The message of the Good Samaritan is as relevant today as it was in Jesus' time. Here's how we can apply its teachings in our lives. 1. Break down barriers of prejudice. Examine your own prejudices and biases. Engage with people who are different from you. Listen to their stories, and extend love and compassion regardless of your differences. 2. Be ready to act. Loving your neighbor means being prepared to act when you encounter someone in need. Whether it's offering a kind word, providing a meal, or giving your time and resources, be attentive to the needs around you and respond with generosity. 3. Extend mercy in all circumstances. Mercy is at the heart of the Christian life. Show mercy not only to those you love, but also to strangers, and even those you consider enemies. In a world marked by division, mercy can be a powerful witness to the love of Christ. 4. Reflect Christ's love in a broken world. The parable ultimately points us to Jesus, who is the perfect example of loving one's neighbor. Just as the Samaritan showed compassion to the wounded man, Jesus showed the ultimate act of love by laying down his life for us. Reflect that same selfless love in your actions toward others. The parable of the Good Samaritan is a timeless and powerful teaching that challenges us to love others with the same compassion and mercy that God has shown us. It calls us to look beyond our differences, to act with kindness and generosity, and to see every person as our neighbor. Are you ready to be a Good Samaritan in your own life? By living out the principles of this parable, we can demonstrate the love of Christ in tangible ways and make a profound impact on the world around us. How can you be a Good Samaritan this week? Comment below on how you plan to put this parable into action in your daily life. And if this message has inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it to encourage others to live out Jesus' command to love our neighbors as ourselves. Thank you for watching, and may God guide you as you seek to love others with the compassion of the Good Samaritan.